homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. Now let us continue our study of the Bodhicharyavatara, Ocean of Good Explanations. Now we come to the third chapter, Taking Hold of Bodhicitta. In this chapter on taking hold of bodhicitta, the main topics cover the branches of rejoicing and dedication, and then some teachings on giving. We have already finished discussing the branch of rejoicing, so now we will begin with the branch of dedication. Dedication can be explained in two ways. One is general dedication, and the other is specific dedication. First, let's talk about general dedication. The verse says, "May the virtue I have amassed by doing all of this eliminate all the suffering of every sentient being." The meaning of this is quite clear to everyone, because earlier we have already studied the practices of various virtuous actions, such as making offerings, prostrations, taking refuge, confession, and rejoicing. All the merit accumulated from these practices and all the good deeds we've done before, we should bring them all to mind. All the merit we have accumulated should be dedicated. To whom do we dedicate? As Mahayana practitioners, we must dedicate all the merit to all sentient beings. May all sentient beings attain unsurpassed happiness, and may they enjoy the temporary happiness of human and gods, and be healthy and free from illness, and so on. These kinds of benefits. Ultimately, may they attain the supreme perfect enlightenment of Buddhahood. When His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche taught placing Buddhahood within reach, he also explained dedication in this way. I remember he said, "The main goal of our dedication is to help sentient beings attain Buddhahood. This is the best and most ultimate goal. Before that, we wish for sentient beings to achieve their own temporary aims and wishes. This is what we call temporary dedication. All the dedications made by bodhisattvas are included in the 10 great aspirations. If we summarize these 10 aspirations, they are wishing for the flourishing of the Dharma and for the happiness of sentient beings. This is the essence of dedication. So, in our daily lives, whatever virtue we accumulate, we should always dedicate it to all sentient beings. It's good to keep this intention in our hearts regularly. All the virtue I have created this time is for the benefit of all sentient beings. May sentient beings be happy, and may the Dharma flourish." These two aspirations are important for everyone to remember. If we dedicate in this way, then countless sentient beings will truly receive benefit. This is the unique blessing, power, and quality of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which are truly vast. So making dedication a regular practice is very important. This also applies when we dedicate to loved ones who have passed away. During rituals for the deceased, dedication is especially significant. There are also stories like this in the sutras, so everyone should remember. Once, the people of Vaishali invited the Buddha for alms. That night, 500 hungry ghosts came to the Buddha and said, "Tomorrow, when you go to Vaishali to receive alms, for the merit of that offering, could you dedicate that merit to us?" The Buddha asked, "Why should I dedicate it to you?" They replied, "We are actually the former parents and relatives of the people of Vaishali. Because of our stinginess and the various negative actions we committed, we were reborn in these ugly forms." The Buddha said, "If you come in person tomorrow, I will dedicate the merit to you. If you do not come, I will not." They replied, "We could come, but because of our ugly appearance, we feel too ashamed to show ourselves." Then the Buddha told them, "When you were creating negative karma, you felt no shame or hesitation. So why be embarrassed now when you are experiencing the result? If you don't come, I won't dedicate to you." In the end, even though they felt ashamed, they still came. At first, the people of Vaishali were very frightened, but then the Buddha explained to them, they are actually your parents, relatives, and friends from previous lives. After explaining this, the Buddha dedicated the merit to them. Through this merit, they were reborn in the heaven of the 33. So, in many sutras and stories taught by the Buddha, we can see just how powerful the merit of dedication can be. Whenever we create virtue, we should not just leave it as it is. If we simply leave it unattended, as explained in the Jewel Casket Sutra, our negative thoughts and emotions can easily destroy it. Patrul Rinpoche, as well as His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, would often remind us of this in their teachings. Whatever virtue we create, we must dedicate it. If we do not dedicate, then even a single moment of anger can destroy all the virtues we have accumulated. But if we dedicate it immediately towards enlightenment, then until we reach Buddhahood, that virtue will never be exhausted. In fact, it will continue to grow and increase. This is the advice passed down from our lineage masters. So, whatever virtue you create, always remember to dedicate it. In fact, there are differences between dedication and aspiration. Some people may not be very clear about what dedication is and what making aspiration is. Omniscient Longchenpa also analyzed this question. For example, when we have already created virtue and then we recite prayers and make aspirations and dedicate it to sentient beings, this is called dedication. As for making aspirations, it refers to the virtue we have not yet created, but we resolve to do in the future, making promises in front of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is what is meant by making aspirations. So when it comes to virtue we have already created, if we combine it with recitation and the aspirations or intentions in our hearts, that is dedication. So we shouldn't mix up dedication and making aspirations. Therefore, whatever virtue we create, it must be embraced by dedication. This is really important. From another perspective, according to the sutras, not only can we dedicate virtue we have already created, but we can also dedicate virtue we will create in the future. The Buddha also taught this in the Avatamsaka Sutra. All the virtue of sentient beings, past, present, and future, if dedicated to the level of Samantabhadra, all will become excellent. This means that all the virtue we sentient beings create, whether in the past, present, or future, can all be dedicated to the level of Samantabhadra, that is the Bodhisattva level. If we dedicate in this way, the resulting merit and virtue we gain is truly beyond words. That is the meaning here. From this perspective, even future virtue can be dedicated. So how do we dedicate future virtue? Regarding this question, Nagarjuna also gave different explanations in the Precious Garland. There are many teachings on aspiration and dedication in the Precious Garland. Later, when Lama Lala Chodrap Rinpoche explained the Precious Garland, he also discussed the principles of aspiration and dedication. Can future virtue be dedicated? Yes, it can. It's just like some people say, the wealth I will obtain in the future can be shared with so-and-so. If you have this wish, it is actually not unrealistic. It is something that can be accomplished. In the same way, we can also dedicate the virtue we will create in the future. This is all about the branch of dedication. Dedication is an extremely important practice in Mahayana training. Some people are not very clear about how to dedicate. It's essential to understand how to dedicate properly. However, when we dedicate, we should not grasp at the merit as truly existent. If we cling to it as something truly existent, that is not appropriate either. We should dedicate with the wisdom that sees everything as dreamlike and illusory. This is also taught in the Perfection of Wisdom in 25,000 lines. The Buddha told Subhuti, all phenomena are like illusions and dreams. Dedication should be made in this way. In other words, we dedicate in a dreamlike, illusory way. If we become attached to the merit or to the sentient beings we dedicate to, if we grasp at them as truly existent or become overly attached, then this merit cannot be extended widely. In the commentary on the Ornament of Clear Realization, there are also scriptural citations from the verse summary of the Perfection of Wisdom, which said, the Buddha said, just as eating contaminated food is harmful, so too is attachment to virtuous dharma. This means that if we become attached to virtue, the Buddha tells us that it's like eating food that's been contaminated with poison. If we become attached to virtuous dharma, if we grasp at virtue as truly existent. Clinging to virtue in this way will weaken the power of dedication. So the way we dedicate must be in a dreamlike, illusory manner. As for the merit we dedicate, we can dedicate merit from the past, present, or future. If we do not dedicate, then the virtue we create may not truly become source for the path to enlightenment. That's why Omniscient Longchenpa also taught us that for any virtuous deed, at the beginning we should embrace it with bodhicitta, in the middle with the purity of the three conceptual spheres, and at the end dedicate it toward enlightenment. If we embrace our virtue with the three noble principles, it becomes virtue tending to liberation and the cause of Buddhahood. If we lack these three noble principles, it only becomes virtue tending to happiness. So for everyone here, whether you are listening to the Dharma or teaching it, whatever virtuous deeds you do, you should wish for your virtue to bring about truly meaningful results. If you don't do this, then the virtue you create is a bit of a pity. It's like a worker who works hard to earn money. After earning it, how you use that money really matters. Of course, the term dedication has been explained differently by many great masters. Some say it means giving, others say it means bestowing. But I think the meaning of dedication is to apply or to use. For example, do I use this merit for human and heavenly happiness? Or do I use it for the benefit of sentient beings, or perhaps for others to gain wealth or status, or for myself to become wealthy or get promoted? It is just like the money I earn. Do I buy clothes or toys for my friends and family members? Or do I spend it on my own food and drink? Or do I even use it to buy harmful things like drugs and then go to nightclubs and live a life that's really not healthy at all? So I think it's the same with dedication. Some people use their merit for the benefit of all beings, dedicating it to everyone. Some people wish only for their own happiness. This is another way. Some even use their merit with the intention to harm their enemies, thinking, with the virtue I created today, may such and such sentient beings be harmed. If we dedicate merit in that way, I think it's really no different from the example I just gave. As you can see, listening to and studying the Dharma is not always an easy thing. For those of us who can listen here in our academy, we have quite favorable conditions in many ways. I've seen that many lay practitioners outside. Every time they gather together, they have to travel, spend money, and it's not easy to come together. Even just gathering for a few teachings is quite challenging. So in the end, you must remember to dedicate your merit. When you dedicate, is your motivation pure? Is your intention truly pure? What are you actually dedicating for? Or did you not dedicate at all, just leaving after the teaching? Or after the teaching, do you make a point to dedicate all the merit you gain today to all beings? It's the best to dedicate your merit to all sentient beings. And finally, it's good to recite some dedication prayers. When reciting dedication prayers, omniscient Longchenpa said in the Great Chariot that we should use verses composed by bodhisattvas on the first bhumi or above. We shouldn't just use any verses casually. For example, this was composed by my teacher, or this was composed by such and such master. Ideally, the dedication verses should come from the sutras or bodhisattvas of the first bhumi or above, or great masters whose realization you have no doubt about. So whether we are teaching or doing any virtuous action, we can recite verses from the King of Aspiration prayers or the dedication prayers taught by Buddha Shakyamuni in the sutras. When the Buddha was King Myrobalan, he offered his own flesh and blood to the Rakshasas and made a dedication. We recite this verse every day. If we dedicate with this verse, the merit is truly immense. So the meaning of dedication is extremely important. After studying the Dharma, we must put it into practice in our daily lives. Every day, whatever virtue we create, we should make sure it becomes a cause for enlightenment. Don't let it go to waste in the middle. This is something everyone should remember. This is the general explanation of dedication. This is how we understand general dedication. Now, as for specific dedication, it is explained in three aspects. The first is dedicating for those who are ill. The second is dedicating for those who are hungry and in need of food and drink. The third is dedicating for those who are poor and destitute. First, regarding the first one, our merit should be dedicated to beings in this world who are suffering from illness. They are truly pitiful. Some can't even sit still because of their pain. Even when I am teaching, sometimes I am in pain. I have to keep moving like this. And when you listen to the Dharma, especially those with spinal problems, it's very uncomfortable. Even sitting is hard. For these people, we should dedicate. The dedication verse is as follows. As long as sentient beings are ill, until their ailments are cured, may I be their medicine, their doctor, and their nurse as well. This verse expresses the wish that I make the aspiration that for all sentient beings, as long as their illness has not yet been cured, I make the aspiration to become the one who cares for them, the one who heals their illnesses, to become a doctor, to become a wonderful medicine, and also to become a nurse who looks after them. So in this world, the incomparable Buddha also made such aspirations in his previous lives. He thought that being a king was not so meaningful, nor was being a merchant or anything else. He aspired to become a doctor. Because if a doctor has a kind heart, they can benefit countless beings. So that was his aspiration at the time. We should also dedicate our merit in this way. What kind of dedication? May all those beings in the world who are suffering from illness be cured. I aspire to become a doctor for them, just as Buddha Shakyamuni aspired to be a doctor in his previous lives. There was once a prince called Medicine Prince, as you know from the Jataka tales of Buddha Shakyamuni. When Medicine Prince was born, at that time many of the illnesses of people in the world gradually disappeared. After he was born, whenever a sick person touched his body, anyone who was ill and touched him would immediately be cured. Even after he passed away, his relics, as we have studied before, even his relics, when touched, could bring relief from suffering and illness to sentient beings. So, in our hearts, we should aspire to be like the Medicine Prince in the Buddha's past lives, truly able to heal all sentient beings. Sometimes when we look at the professors and doctors in major hospitals, some of them may just be working to support their families, to make a living, but some truly have a very pure motivation. They dedicate their whole lives to society and to helping suffering patients. Day and night, they are always thinking of the welfare of others. We should also aspire to be doctors who benefit beings in this way. So sometimes when we see doctors, it's good not to think, oh, doctors are nothing special, or to judge them by their specialty, like this heart doctor doesn't look so healthy himself, or the dentist is losing his hair. It's better not to think this way. Perhaps they are emanations of Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, we never know. And when we think about medicine, whether it's Chinese medicine, Western medicine, or Tibetan medicine, all kinds of medicines can also be seen as the compassionate activity of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We can also make aspirations ourselves, wishing that all beings in the world may be happy and that we may become a wonderful medicine. Just as Buddha Shakyamuni in his previous lives, there was a time when he was the King Padmaka, and as the King Padmaka, when he saw his people suffering from an epidemic, he made the aspiration to become a Rohita fish so that all the people in that country could be cured of their illness. He wished for all the sickness in the land to disappear. Just as it's described in this story, we should also aspire to become healing medicine ourselves. Sometimes when we need to take medicine, we may not want to take Chinese medicine, or we may not want to take Western medicine, or we're not so willing to take Tibetan medicine, especially for some patients, because they take medicine so often, they start to dread it when they see it. But really it's just that we may not fully understand the deeper meaning behind it. Otherwise, we'd see that all healing medicines are manifestations and blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So we take them with the thought of receiving Buddha's blessings. At the same time, we also aspire that in the future we become healing medicine to benefit beings. So the medicine we take is not unrelated to the aspirations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In fact, it is closely related to their aspirations. There is a very strong connection. Then we can also aspire to be like nurses, just as it's described in the Vinaya. As we have learned, the Buddha himself set an example, going to the wards himself, cleaning the patients' bodies and taking care of their food and drink, and also teaching them about health and wellness. The Buddha, in his past lives, set many such examples for us. This is something we can all appreciate. And in the Vinaya, it is recorded that the Buddha often earnestly encouraged everyone to care for the sick. This is truly the responsibility of every practitioner. So whether we are monastics or lay people, whenever we see suffering patients, someone suffering from illness, we should do our best to care for them. I feel this is really important for every practitioner. In short, when we are studying the Dharma, whenever we see sick people or medicine or doctors, we should perceive them as the manifestations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And we ourselves should always aspire. There are so many beings in the world who are suffering. We should try to help them. If we can do this, the merit is truly great. Didn't Lord Atisha also say this in the past? If we care for guests from afar, our own parents, or those who are sick and suffering, it is no different from practicing great compassion and emptiness. Lord Atisha was a great master who had mastered all the teachings of Sutrayana and Vajrayana. Such an extraordinary master, he had already seen the laws of cause and effect clearly. If we care for the sick or look after suffering sentient beings in this way, there is truly immeasurable merit. So, in our practice, we should always keep these pitiful beings in mind and try to provide support for them as much as we can. In texts such as the Yoga Karabhumi Shastra, the treatise that accomplishes reality, and the Abhidharma Kosha, it is recorded when the kinds of suffering described in the root verses will arise in the Dharma-ending age, especially when human lifespans grow shorter, the three calamities will appear: the calamity of pestilence, the calamity of warfare, and the calamity of famine. At that time, when the human lifespan is only 20 years, all kinds of epidemics and diseases will arise in the world. Plagues and illnesses will appear everywhere. At that time, no matter what medicine or treatment people try, nothing will be effective at all. Only by relying on the power of the aspirations, merit, and blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can beings find benefit. So in the future, when human lifespan is only 20 years, such disasters will occur at that time. But actually, it's not just in the future. Even now, sometimes, if we look at society today, we can see that there are already many frightening diseases appearing. For example, there was the plague that spread among rats and then infected people. At that time, over 100 million people died worldwide. Later, there were 8 outbreaks of cholera in the world. I remember that in just one outbreak, 140,000 people died in the UK alone. Then there was AIDS, and then avian flu, SARS, and so on, kept appearing. All these diseases in the world, in fact, are really not so different from the disasters of disease that are predicted for the future, because some of today's epidemics are global, and if they are not well controlled, it really wouldn't be difficult for such diseases to threaten the lives of people everywhere. So when we make aspirations in daily life, we should wish that all these beings in the world who are suffering may all find happiness and relief. May all the suffering in their bodies and minds be quickly resolved. Of course, if you have the ability or the right conditions to help, then do your best. Even helping just one person can be meaningful. If you are physically able, help them with your strength. If your circumstances allow, you can help with financial support. Nowadays, many great masters and kind people often set up free clinics or Buddhist hospitals in various places, or establish Buddhist hospitals and so on, providing a lot of support and care for those suffering patients. Truly, those who are ill are in a difficult situation, and whenever we see this, we must do our best to help and care for them. We should think of saving them as quickly as possible. Of course, it's not always possible. Just a few days ago, I heard about a situation nearby. Someone told us that they asked if they could use the ambulance from our institute, but that day the ambulance wasn't available. Later, I asked about the situation. It turned out that in a nearby village, a young man was about to get married in 3 days, and he happily went to the county to invite guests, to send out invitations, but on the way he had a car accident. It was serious, and he passed away soon after. Our ambulance wasn't able to help in time. When he was taken to the hospital by another vehicle, he had already passed away. When I heard this, it really reminded me how unpredictable life can be. He thought he would start a new life in 3 days, but just for this, he left this world on the road. In situations like this, sometimes we really want to help, but due to various causes and conditions, it's not always possible. There are times when we want to save someone, but the right conditions just don't come together, and they leave this world. This kind of situations happens, but no matter what, as Mahayana practitioners, when there are beings around us who are about to lose their lives, we must help them. I have seen many Dharma friends at the Academy who, regardless of day or night, put aside their own needs and do everything they can to help others. I hear some say, "He's not going to make it, but no matter what, I have to send him to the hospital right away." Seeing this attitude, it really shows how much they value the lives of others. This is how it should be, because if these Dharma friends can survive, they'll keep benefiting from the Dharma in this life and the future. Therefore, helping others is worthwhile and meaningful. Next, the second topic, dedicating for those who are hungry and thirsty. The verse in the text goes like this: May showers of food and drink relieve the torments of hunger and thirst. In intermediate eons of famine, may I become food and drink. This means that when people encounter famine, we should pray for the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May a rain of food fall from the sky, relieving the suffering of those poor beings. Caught in famine, so that suffering from hunger may be dispelled. May they each obtain what they need to sustain themselves. May they have enough food and drink, and so on. This is how we should dedicate. Of course, famines like this are also recorded in the sutras. For example, in the Abhidharma Kosha, it's said that in the future, when human lifespan is 30 years, there will be terrible famines in the world. At that time, people will have almost nothing to eat, and in their search for food, it will be as if they are searching for a wish-fulfilling jewel. People will long for even a little food. Sometimes, if they find even a single grain from the time when human lifespan was 80 or 100 years, they will say, "This is grain left behind by people with great merit when they could live 80 or 100 years. If we cook it into soup, it can sustain our lives." So they value even a single grain of food very highly. They often lock it away in iron boxes, treating it as their spiritual sustenance, entrusting their whole lives to a single grain, or placing all their hopes on that one grain. In such famines, when they dig in the ground, they may find the skeletons of people from the time when lifespan was 100 years, and they even cook soup from those bones, saying that these are the bones of people from a time of great merit. If we make soup from them, there is nutritional value, and it can sustain our lives. With this soup, they hope to survive and not die from famine. Back then, famine was truly terrifying. There was almost nothing to eat. So when we make aspirations, we should aspire that when people face such famine and disaster, when they have nothing to eat or wear, we should aspire to become food and drink in front of them, to help these pitiful beings at that time. Or just look at this world. There are so many refugees and people suffering everywhere. So we pray for the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, wishing that they may quickly obtain food and be free from suffering. May they soon have enough to eat. We should make aspirations like this. So sometimes we can see that not only in the future will there be such terrible famines, but even now in many countries famines occur frequently, including some places in Africa and other places where war is common, like Iraq, as well as many other countries where famines occur from time to time. There are thousands upon thousands of people who simply cannot get enough to eat, and many have died from hunger. Even in the last century, for many of us here, that was before we were even born. Some of the older practitioners may remember those times. In the late 1950s, there were famines in many places. At that time, so many people suffered from hunger, and it's said that over 5.22 million people died back then. And by the 1960s, the death toll had reached over 15.5 million. So many people passed away during that time. At that time, many elders in Tibetan region, including my own parents, witnessed people who truly died of hunger. There was nothing that could be done. Especially back then, when someone died, others would immediately cut off the flesh to eat, just to survive. These situations were truly frightening. Even now, when we look at the world, so many people still don't have enough to eat. There are so many beings who can't solve their food problems. Sometimes, when we see the news, we notice that while there are many wealthy people, there are also many who are poor. It's as if the world of hungry ghosts has appeared in this world. Such situations do happen. Not long ago, a government official wrote an article reporting on the hardships people are facing. The article was titled, "Farmers are truly suffering, truly exhausted, and really need help." He described the real lives of some farmers from three perspectives. Sometimes if we actually visit or go to some remote or impoverished places, we can see that so many beings are truly in difficult situations. It's heartening that whenever there's famine or disease, there are always many big charities stepping in to help. For example, the International Red Cross and other major charities provide them with aid, sending clothes, medical care, and medicine, offering help in many different ways. Sometimes, when we see their good deeds, it really feels like a manifestation of the Buddha's and Bodhisattvas' compassion. Perhaps these are indeed the compassionate manifestations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It's good to have faith in this. So in the future, whenever we see beings in need, no matter how many people you can help, it's always worthwhile, even if it's just one person in need. If you can help someone in a difficult time, I feel that is already a meaningful reason for us to be in this world. Therefore, as Buddhists, we should not only care about our own practice. When we see others in pain, I think it's really important for us to reach out and offer help. This is the second point, dedicating to those who are hungry. Now, the third point, dedicating to those who are poor. May I be an inexhaustible treasure for poor and deprived beings and stay nearby them as the various things they need and want. This means that in our world, there are so many extremely poor and pitiful beings. To help these destitute beings, we should make the aspiration to become an inexhaustible source of treasures and resources, like the wish-fulfilling treasures of ancient times, or the treasures in the treasury of a great king. And we ourselves aspire to become all kinds of resources and necessities, appearing before sentient beings to fulfill their needs so that countless sentient beings may be satisfied. We should make this aspiration at all times. As Mahayana practitioners, we are all familiar with the various forms the Buddha vowed to appear when he was in his causal stage, and even after he attained Buddhahood. In the Heap of Jewels Sutra, it is said that when beings encounter famine during such difficult times, the Buddha appeared as wish-fulfilling jewels and treasures to satisfy all their needs. So, when beings are in poverty, whatever resources they receive, whether directly or through other means, should be seen as the compassionate manifestation of the Buddha. We can understand it in this way, because the Buddha's manifestations are inconceivable. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, it is also said that the Buddha may appear before beings as a Brahmin, or as Brahma, Indra, a monk, and so on, manifesting in all kinds of forms to benefit beings. In the Sutra on entering the inconceivable wisdom realm, it is also explained that in the future the Buddha will manifest as jewels, wonderful medicines, pearls, and so on, appearing in various forms to benefit sentient beings to fulfill their needs. So sometimes when we see things like some wonderful medicine or other resources and necessities, even things we use every day like air conditioning or a fan when it's hot, these too can be seen as the Buddha's compassionate manifestation. If you go somewhere, whether you take a bus, a taxi, a boat on the sea, or an airplane in the sky, all of these can be seen as the Buddha's compassionate activity. In the later part of Finding Rest in the Nature of Mind, omniscient Longchenpa also said that gardens, parks, palaces, houses, and so on can all be seen as the compassionate manifestations of the Buddha. Of course, those who believe only in materialism, who do not understand the inconceivable power of Mahayana aspiration, may not believe these Mahayana teachings. But those who have deep faith in the blessings and aspirations of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will understand these principles. So we should know that the things we use or enjoy in daily life may be the manifestations of the Buddha. For example, in the Sutra on Skill in Means, it is said that the Buddha may manifest as bridges, roads, gates, and so on, as all kinds of things that people use. So when we see a big bridge, we might think, oh, this is a bridge, but what does it have to do with me? As if the Buddha's manifestation has nothing to do with us. But actually, that's not the case. Whatever we use, wherever we go, as long as it benefits sentient beings, we should remind ourselves this is the result of the Buddha's inconceivable aspirations for the sake of all beings since beginningless time, so that we can enjoy these temporary benefits. This is how we should perceive it. So, the Buddha's blessings have never left us sentient beings, not even for a moment. This is also taught in the 100 Deeds. Even if the ocean could exist without waves, the Buddha's activity never leaves sentient beings. Sometimes even the ocean might be without waves. But in reality, this kind of situation just isn't possible. It's just a hypothetical example. So even if the ocean were without waves, the Buddha's activity for sentient beings is never interrupted. At the end of the Ornament of Clear Realization, it is also said that the Buddha's activity is unceasing. But sometimes, as ordinary beings, when a teacher or the Buddha appears to help us directly and really solves our problem today, we might feel, oh, the Guru's blessing is amazing, the Buddha's blessing is inconceivable. we recognize it in that moment, but at other times it can feel as if the Buddha has never helped us. Some people may even feel disappointed. Buddha, I pray to you every day. I heard there was a lay practitioner who wanted to start a big business. He prayed to the Buddha every day, but because he lacked merit, his business failed. Then he became very upset and immediately burned the Buddha statue, saying, I made offerings to you every day, but you didn't help me. Why is that? He tried to punish the Buddha. But really, as ordinary people, we can't punish the Buddha, nor should we think that way. Sometimes, when we look at the behaviors of some beings, it can seem a bit sad or pitiable. But in this regard, we should all understand that the Buddha's blessings, merit, and activity have never left us, not even for a moment. This is something we should keep in mind. So, when we make aspirations in daily life, we aspire, may I, in every lifetime, be like the Buddha, benefiting sentient beings. Whether I become a human, a non-human, or even an inanimate object that serves as a resource, in whatever way I can benefit sentient beings. Even when we see something as simple as a pen, when we hold a pen, it can be so useful for students, for adults, for anyone. Whatever is in their hearts can be expressed through writing. This too is a way of benefiting others. So could it be that the Buddha manifests as a pen to benefit beings? None of us can really say it isn't so. The Buddha's power and aspirations are inconceivable. No matter what beings need to be fulfilled, the Buddha has already made aspirations for them. So as Mahayana Buddhists, as followers of the Buddha, we should also make such aspirations. Now, regarding the calamity of warfare, Khenpo Kumpal said in his commentary that although the verse itself does not explicitly mention the calamity of warfare, since it already mentions disease and famine earlier, the latter part about war, the calamity of warfare, is not stated directly, but in fact it is already implied here. The so-called calamity of warfare will occur when human lifespan is only 10 years. At that time, the merit of all beings will have greatly diminished. People's bodies will become very small. They will use hair as clothing and millet as food. At that time, due to collective karma, all the plants and things in the world will turn into weapons. Everything will become a weapon. Anything you pick up can be used as a weapon, and these weapons will be used for mutual harm. The whole world will become, as we might say, like a hell realm of revival, a place of great fear and suffering. So we should also make aspirations. May I at that time truly become a true source of benefit for beings. And through the blessings of the Buddha and my own aspirations, may all wars and weapons disappear. We should make such aspirations. This is our aspiration for the future. But it's not only for the future. Actually, even now, we can reflect in this way. Because in the world today, all kinds of wars are happening frequently. In these wars, the number of deaths is extremely high. For example, in the First World War, about 16 million people lost their lives. And in the Second World War, although the historical statistics are not entirely consistent, in general, according to some statistics, over 45 million people died, and there was the War of Resistance against Japan, the Iraq War, the Gulf War, and even now, conflicts continue to break out, such as the conflicts between Lebanon and Israel. Countless people are caught in the suffering of war. So in our world, there are so many wars and conflicts between people. Sometimes even among Buddhists, there can be small disagreements, especially within families. There are often many kinds of wars as well. As monastics, we may not have much direct experience with the daily life of lay people. But if you spend even a month in a household, you'll notice that generally there may be 1 or 2 wars in the family. These are just family conflicts. No matter what kind of conflict it is, whether it's internal or external, big or small, whenever we see others in conflict, we should know that people's hearts are filled with pain during such times. So we aspire that their anger and hatred may soon be pacified and that they may find peace. We should make such aspirations if we have the ability, of course, for someone like me, just an ordinary person, not to mention wars between countries or conflicts between regions or disputes over pastures among nomads. These disputes can be very difficult to resolve. We often encounter such challenges. But as Buddhists, still, whenever we see others in conflict or fighting at that time, we should try to intervene and stop it. For example, whether you're on the street or in a monastery, if you see two Dharma friends or two people about to fight, don't just stand by and do nothing. Don't encourage them by saying, "Yeah, go ahead, fight, you're doing great." Sometimes when we were young, we might have said to two children, "See, you don't dare to hit him, do you?" And with just a few words, soon the two kids would end up fighting with all their might. We shouldn't do that. Now, our thinking should be more mature in every way. So when we see others fighting or in conflict or even just having some friction, we should do our best to help, to comfort, and to encourage harmony. I think this is very necessary. Therefore, as practitioners in our daily actions, we should always try to help others and do what we can to ease the pain in their hearts. At the same time, we should also make aspirations that whenever beings experience illness or disasters or wars, at such times we should remember how difficult it is for them and aspire to help them. In recent years, when some countries have suffered from war, the suffering of the poor and the refugees, only those with wisdom can truly understand and feel it. Those who have experienced war know just how painful it is. So, we should aspire that these sentient beings may have their worries and suffering eased wherever they are. We should think in this way and also make aspirations ourselves. Aspirations. In the Sutra of the Mansion, it is said that we'll gain great merit if we make offerings to the Sangha, even just one Myrobalan fruit. It is a really small one, a small fruit used in medicine. You should know the character for it. So it's also a good ingredient in Tibetan medicine. If we offer even a single Myrobalan or a ladle or spoonful of food, in the future we will not be reborn in the evil ages of disease, hunger, or war. This is what the sutra says. So whenever we encounter 4 or more monks, it's good to make offerings. I don't know if it's sold in our stores now, maybe not. Is Myrobalan available now? If there is, maybe their business will be very good tomorrow, because the sutra says even one Myrobalan, if we offer more, the merit is even greater. And of course any other food as well. If we make offerings to the Sangha, we will not be reborn in those unfortunate ages. This is also recorded in the sutras. In any case, we should always make aspiration for all suffering beings in the world to find happiness. For every Mahayana practitioner, this kind of motivation is something we should never be without. We'll stop here for today.
Sonandai tamse bhaganya tanayide dhamma pasi tirgana jirano chupai chupun solen droadrasya
Bandharangara Badma Asadarda Bandharangara Badma Asadarda Bandharangara Badma Asadarda